That is a track from Covered in Bees, and it was recorded with my next guest. This is Rowan Bishop from Garage Mahal Recording Studios in Westbrook, Maine. Rowan, thanks for coming down to the show.
Glad to be here.
Now, that was a track from Covered in Bees. We're going to talk about that, but I tell you what, first, let's get a little background on you for people who aren't familiar with you. You've had a lot of, you've been on the show before with your old band. How'd you get to Maine, and what's your musical background?
Well, let's see here. I have been playing music and recording music for over 20 years. I moved to Maine in 2001 after looking around at different places to move away because I'm originally from the New York City area. And Portland, Maine just seemed like the place to go. It's a really nice town, great music scene. Very happy here. And
you played in a couple of different bands. You started a band called By Blood Alone and put out some records that got a lot of notice. Why don't you talk a little bit about that band?
Well, we were a sort of a heavy progressive rock band with a female vocalist and keyboards and like metal guitars and drums and stuff like that. And we put out 3 albums, went on 3 tours, played in the local scene a lot, played at Gino's, Space Gallery, Port City Music Hall, Ale House, places like that. It was great fun. I really enjoyed it. Made a lot of great friends.
Now, fast forward to 2015, and you've got a studio. Why don't you give us a little background on how you decided to start a studio?
Well, I was a studio engineer when I lived in New York City in the 1990s. I have a degree from Center for the Media Arts, which does not exist anymore. I decided that I wanted to get back into it, and fortunately now, because of modern technology, it does not cost $1 million to open a recording studio. So I was able to build a studio on my property. It's purpose-built, and started recording people, and it's going quite well.
And when did you start the studio?
2010.
And I have been into the studio. When you say purpose-built, so you actually built the room as a recording room?
Yes. It's non-parallel walls, floating floor, a room within a room design. It's very well insulated.
And that's probably something you don't see for smaller studios. Obviously, there's some big studios in the area.
Yeah, most people are just run cable across the floor in their spare bedroom, and that's the studio.
And what do you feel like sets your studio apart from the local competition?
Well, I recently asked some of my clients that question, and other than the fact that the studio is clean and well-equipped and purpose-built, I think it comes down to my attitude about recording and who's in control. The artists who record with me tend to have their own sound and vision, and I feel that my job is to capture that as purely as possible without letting my own tastes or way of doing things get in the way. I don't want to change what they do. It's their distinctiveness that makes me want to work with them. And I don't want to screw that up by making anyone do things my way. Of course, people want input or guidance. I'll give them that. And if something flat out is not going to work, I'll say so. But my goal is to let the artist be the artist. And I record, they create.
Do you record all kinds of music? I know you've had a wide variety of types of bands in there. Is there any kind of music that you don't record?
Yeah, I don't record. Let's put it this way. I record music that has live musicians. So, hip-hop, techno, not really my thing. I have nothing against them. I just don't have the right equipment or the training for that.
So speaking of the types of bands you've been in there, obviously we just heard Covered in Bees, and they're kind of a heavy band, and I know you've had a few of those in there, but who are some of the clients you've had in?
Let's see here. Covered in Bees, Eastern Spell, Ogre, Viva, Corlin Richards, the Chevers High School Jazz Band, Scostitutes, Max Ader Trio, Logan Bell, Kenya Hall, Stoned Audio, After Black, the Bedbugs, many, many others.
Now, some of those have horns. Is there something special about recording horns? Is that a kind of a specialty of yours, or is that just, again, as long as they're live musicians?
I love recording horns. I have ribbon mics. They get that fat sound, that fat mid-range for horns. Great stuff.
I know you have an analog board. You've got a kind of a humorous video that's on your website where you talk about this board. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I realized that after working in the quote-unquote in the box, all digital for a few years, that I missed some aspects of working with an analog board. And so I did some research and just picked out a Midas board to install in the studio. So I have 32 inputs of Midas EQ, preamps, I have analog summing, And it really, for some things, the old school way is really the best way to go about it. Probably one of 2 analog boards in the Portland area and one of a handful in the entire state. So I'm really happy with how it sounds. It's got a great smooth top end. The mids and the low mids and the low end are big, but they're clear, and it's very smooth sounding.
So there's a big difference, because somebody like me, I don't really understand the difference, especially with a board. But there's definitely a noticeable difference.
Oh yeah, if I played you the 2 one after the other, you definitely hear a difference.
All right. And in terms of mics and stuff, you have a full range of that.
I have a full
type
range
stuff.
of mics.
And what about equipment like amps and stuff?
I have my old amp collection, which is I've got Marshall, Fender, Ampeg, Mesa Boogie, a nice collection, I think.
Obviously, there's a lot of studios in the area, or a lot of people doing recording. Maybe there aren't that many studios, but there's a couple of big studios, and then there's a lot of people doing recording. Where do you feel like you fit in the scheme of things?
Well, yeah, there are a couple of big studios, and there are people who are just, kind of hobbyists recording in their basements with a laptop and some microphones. I like to think that I occupy a nice middle ground. I have a professional setup. It's purpose built. I have an education in recording, but I am not running the big overhead that the big studios are running.
All right, we're talking with Rowan Bishop, owner-operator of Garage Mahal Studios right in downtown Westbrook.
Yep.
Conveniently located. Now, we kicked off this segment with a Covered in Bees track, which I had not heard before. Anything you want to say about that track to give us some background?
Tristan from Covered in Bees called me up and asked if I wanted to record a song for a soundtrack, and it turns out the soundtrack was the sequel to Class of Nukem High. Class of Nukem High was a sort of punksploitation film, low budget, from the 80s that I saw when I was in high school. And when I saw it, I said, I want to do something cool like that someday. And lo and behold, I got the opportunity to be involved in the sequel. And I was really excited about working on the project. And the best part was the period after mixing, where I'm driving around in my car listening to the mixes, and I got to listen to that song over and over again. It's really catchy.
Now, how did they get involved in the film?
They're connected.
Oh.
They're connected in these things.
Okay. We'll have to find out about that. Well, that's cool. Now, if people want to find out about your studio online, I assume you've got some kind of website, and can they hear sound clips and stuff like
Absolutely. that? Absolutely. GarageMahalRecording.com. Sound clips are right on the homepage.
Now, we're going to hear one more track that was recorded by a young band that recently came into your studio. Why don't you tell us about that?
They're called the Oh My's. They're the winners of this year's Lewiston High School Battle of the Bands, and the prize was some recording time at my studio. And I'm really glad I did it, because they came in, they're good guys, they're good players, they have a really good song, and they've got something going on. I'm really happy to work with them.
All right. Well, we've been talking with Rowan Bishop from Garage Mahal. You can find him on the web at garagemahalrecording.com. And Rowan, we'll see you somewhere down the road.
Absolutely.